brief intro to a 2i2c JupyterHub that I have set up for geospatial analysis in Python and in R. So here I log in, and it authenticated through my GitHub account. That's why it popped right to here. If I weren't logged into GitHub, you would have seen a window asking me to log in. So when I first come to the hub, it's going to ask me how big of a virtual machine I want. So it's going to spin up my own virtual machine, essentially. And depending on what I'm doing, you know, like how big of a data set I'm going to need to bring into memory, you know, I could get up to 128 gigabytes of RAM. This particular hub does not have GPU, it's only CPU, but certainly you can have that GPU as an option. All right, so let's look here, the image. So these are the environments that I have preloaded onto this JupyterHub. So I happen to have a few Python images, environments. They're all geospatial. This one has TensorFlow in it for some machine learning. And then this one is a geospatial. R has a lot of geospatial packages, and this is a geospatial with a bunch of species distribution modeling packages. Let's go ahead and pick that. Note that both the R images also have a Python environment. When you're working on a JupyterHub, you'll always have your Python environment, a basic Python environment available. These particular images actually have a geospatial Python environment. So I pick my image. I'm doing this. Start here. So now it's spinning up my virtual machine. If I haven't started up with an image for a while, it can take a little while because it has to kind of install the image. But in this case, I've worked with this image recently. Okay, so I start up, and I'm starting up in default in Jupyter Lab. You can see I have these buttons here. This is if I want to open a Jupyter Notebook, and this is if I want to open RStudio. You see my files here. When I launch into this environment, I have a persistent user directory. You'll notice I have a lot of things in mind because I work in here, so it's kind of filled up with various stuff, some stuff that I don't need there, honestly. And then I also have this tool here, right here. So say if I wanted to clone a repository from GitHub, I could do that. So I can do, you know, interacting, pushing changes there, or I can just work in my persistent environment. So if I click, let's go back here. Okay, so, you know, I can click here, open up a Jupyter Notebook. All right, so let's go back to, no, launcher. Okay, so I also have RStudio. Now, a JupyterHub is like a way to manage these environments for you, and it's definitely not limited to Jupyter Notebook. That's really popular. You can have RStudio, Visual Studio Code. You could have MATLAB too. It's kind of how you want to set it up. So I just have RStudio here. So this is going to launch a RStudio environment for me. You can see, looks really, if you are an R user, this looks really familiar. You're right here in your R environment. It works just like you would normally find in RStudio. Should be very familiar. What's different here is that I've pre-installed a number of different packages, some packages from source that are needed for the species distribution modeling. So it's all set up for everyone. Everyone will be using in the same environment. Okay, hope that was helpful. Just a real brief introduction there.